Hey, I'm Dawn Marie Solis with Neuro Awesome Life, and I am so excited to, for the first time, be talking to Neely Kimey of Weird and Wired. My mouth wants to say weird and wild, so I had to think really I was practicing weird and wired, coaching and consulting. And Neely and I are buds, and we've been doing cool work together. And one of the things that came up recently was the fact that we are both neurodivergent and we are both working for ourselves. We're trying to do really, really good things for the neurodivergent community, and it's complicated. And it's complicated for a bunch of reasons. And we're going to talk about a few of them. But Neely, that's all the introduction you get from me.
It was
People
great.
who watch my podcast know that I don't introduce. I make my guests introduce themselves. So whatever you would like this audience to know about you, have at it.
Sounds good. I mean, I'm the same way on my podcast. I'm like, I know this person. Tell me how we know each other. You tell me. Anyway, I'm Neely. Hi. I thought that intro was great as is, but yeah, I'm the founder of Weird and Wired. I'm now on my third year of business doing that. So I'm 2 years and a couple of months in. Um, Primarily, what I do is one-on-one and group coaching with autistics and ADHDers or AuDHDers. Um, so yeah, that's what I do. I do some other stuff as well, like my podcast, Intentional Oversharing. But yeah, I just really love coaching and talking about neurodivergence in all its many facets and layers.
One of the ways in which I just sort of joined your world was through your book club.
Mhm.
And if people want to get in touch with Neely for any of the reasons that we've said or we will remember to say, Neely has a Patreon account. We'll make sure that that is linked in the description. But your book club, we are currently reading Rest as Resistance.
Rest is Resistance. Yep, by
Yes.
Trisha Hersey.
Yes, thank you. Um, and I was really impressed with the amount of work you put in before we got together. It was so neurodivergent friendly, disability friendly, as somebody who struggles with a lot of auditory and visual processing challenges because of a TBI. Also being a neurodivergent person, and it was just so friendly is my best word for it, because you weren't requiring anybody to be on camera. You weren't making demands. It was an invitation, and people who wanted to participate in any way could and did, which was really cool. Um, but you also had done, like, you had the conversation questions on a slide so that they could be read, and it just I was just really impressed. I was really impressed. And I thought about me, and I'm like, yeah, I don't have the personal capacity because of my disabilities to like do all that prep work. I am constantly just flying by the seat of my pants because my brain won't let me do very much prep work. If I do the prep work, I am now too tired to do the work. I also think, even though you may not have the same struggles I do, maybe you relate to that a little bit. Like, yeah, you did the thing, but was the thing like, did it take a lot out of you? How is that? Because those of us who work for ourselves, it's all of our energy and effort and thought, and now I want to know.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting you say that because Part of my approach, so first off, just want to mention I've been hosting this book club previous to starting my Patreon account. I've been hosting it for 2 years now. So I started it back in January of 2024. It's intentionally meant to be like low pressure, slow paced. We usually discuss one or two chapters per week, depending on the length of the chapters that are in the book. I try not to expect people to read more than maybe like 2 hours a week at the very, very most. And even that is a stretch for myself. So I try to keep it to like an hour of reading per week. But there's been a lot of kind of trial and error as I've gotten comfortable with this. So it started out as we would meet every other week. And I liked that at first because I was like, oh, you're not like signing up for meeting every single week. That just felt like a lot at first. But what was interesting is I was just getting my bearings with hosting anything, much less being the face of something at the same time. And so I would get like having 2 weeks in between sessions started to get really like stressful and overwhelming and anxiety inducing for me because it was basically like I would feel like I had the hang of it after a session and I'd be like, oh, that was so worth all of the stress and preparation. And then I'd have 2 full weeks to basically forget those skills and forget any confidence that I had gained during that process. And then it felt like a brand new thing again. And so I had to I got to the point where I was like, maybe the answer is meeting weekly and just making sure that people know that whether they can attend every single week or if they have to skip sometimes, that's totally fine. You're not going to hurt my feelings by any means. I never want it to be like added stress or added homework for people because that's not fun. So I moved it to meeting every week, which forced me to get kind of into a rhythm, and it's actually made it a lot easier now. Like now it's something I look forward to, and it's not something that I'm just stressing out about the whole time leading up to it. But with the prep work, like the slides and stuff that you saw, I've been using a version of those slides for almost the whole time I've been running this. So the only preparation I have to do in advance really is I have to read the chapters, obviously, before the session. So I've at least read them and can speak on them. But then I also just either come up with discussion questions based on those chapters, or I have my friend Brittany, who I introduce during the book clubs. She's really great at coming up with discussion questions for these kinds of settings. So I've enlisted her help because that's something that comes more naturally to her than it does to me. So whenever I'm struggling, I go to her and I'm like, hey, do you have any questions in mind for this? And when I outsource that to her, it kind of feels like there's no preparation other than reading for me. I've like really pared down what's required of me because I much prefer to just fly by the seat of my pants. Whenever I'm hosting these, I don't want to have to do a whole lot of preparation in advance. So yeah, like the slides that you saw, I didn't have to like scramble and put those together in advance. It's like those have just been tweaked slightly over the years. And so it was really just the questions at that point.
It's so cool that you have somebody to think with you. I think one of the things that is hardest for me is that I feel like I do my best work when I have somebody else to think with.
Hmm.
It's not that I can't have my own thoughts and that I'm not smart on my own, but the way I'm wired is to be interactive. So it was interesting for me, like when I started doing online classes and events and seminars and stuff like that, um, and everybody wanted to be off camera. I had to really get used to that because having most of my experience be live and in person, I I use the energy of the people with me, their facial expressions, they're like there's a lot of feedback, like you're listening to me and you're just nodding your head, right? Like that actually settles my soul and I feel better, right? There's somebody responding. So when I have to talk and there's no one, and anybody who is complex PTSD like I am might also know that I'm sure some of the way I feel is because I've had to look out for all the safety things, right? I need somebody's facial expression. I need somebody's. So there's that component, but being able to share somebody's energy and intellect, brilliant. Love it. Love it. Um, but I want neurodivergent people be those that I share with. And all of us are like constantly burnt out and are trying to do our own thing. And so I think that's another component too. Like I talked to a number of neurodivergent people who are trying to do their own thing and they would love help. Often the help we need is with stuff most people don't want to do. It's kind of like if somebody else could just clean my toilet, my life would be so much better. But who the hell wants to clean your toilet, right? Like, the stuff that we need help with isn't necessarily stuff people want to do or stuff that people feel like they can do regularly with consistency. And I think that's one of the things that I understand with every fiber of my being, and it makes me tired. It's not that I don't have kind people in my life that will sometimes show up for me, but I don't generally have too many consistent people because they're like me. Chronic pain, chronic illness, neurodivergent, something going on, and their life is going to explode every 3 seconds. And all right, so what are they supposed to do? Yeah, that was a lot of words piled onto. I love that you have somebody in your life that you can turn to. But it's one of the, oh my gosh, evidently I have a camera setting. I'm so sorry. My camera is moving with me. I have a brand new camera. I'm trying it out.
It's fine. It's not, it could be a lot more distracting. I've seen it be way more distracting than this, so if that helps, it's not too bad.
Okay, I'm going to try to turn it off, but in a second.
Okay.
It's really distracting for me. It's
Yeah.
really distracting for me. Um, my nervous system isn't shot. I'm fine. Camera moved. Oh my God. Um, one of the things you and I have talked about is that need for help. That, yeah, a lot of us
Mhm.
neurodivergent people are trying to do, a crafting thing or a business thing. We're trying to financially support ourselves because we don't fit out there in the capitalist world. Um, but it means we have to figure out how to do all of the things, figure out the taxes, figure out the, like, all of the things. And there aren't too many of us that are actually good at all of the things or have the energy, even if we are good at all of it. Once you've taken care of sort of the behind the scenes businessy stuff, do you have any energy left over to actually do the thing? And you and I have talked about that, and you've made some decisions recently to try to change that. Can you talk us through a little bit, like what your thinking was? And you and I share something in common that makes our decision process very different from some others. You and I have some financial privilege in our life that doesn't make us wealthy, but it doesn't make us homeless either, right? So
Right.
we can make a few tighten the belt decisions with our budget because we have partners who are backing us up. So I just kind of want to state that right up front, because if I say I'm going to hire somebody, somebody else is going to be like, well, that is nice for you. Right?
Right.
And they're going to want to punch me in the face. So I just want to, like, I also want to say that, at least for me personally, this is an incredibly new experience in my life. I have always been underwater financially. I've been home insecure, food insecure. The vast majority of my life, I've been homeless. I have worked for the food I brought home to feed my children. Like, yes, I currently have privilege, and I know what it's like to not have that. Um, which is part of the reason why my nervous system is shot. I don't feel, I know that it's true that I have that security. My brain and body don't believe that it's true that I have that security. So I'm constantly like white knuckling every decision I make. Um, but yeah, I'm going to try to be quiet now. Wish me
Um,
luck.
so yes, basically, so you and I we've talked a bit about how we have had some similar experiences throughout our lives that have led us to both have we very much both have scarcity mindsets when it comes to finances and living any sort of life of ease. I think we both have been, and so many people listening to this can relate to this, I'm sure, that um, we both have been conditioned that in order for us to live anything that resembles a life of ease or abundance, we have to work extremely hard. We have to burn ourselves out over and over again in order to
Mhm.
maintain that. And so I think that you and I having these conversations, whether they are, being recorded for others to enjoy or we're having them privately, I think it's important that we have one another to relate to about this, and actually relate about having a scarcity mindset while also kind of trying to coach one another from a place of fully believing that each other deserves a life of ease and abundance. Like that I'm not just saying that whenever I try to kind of coach you on that, and I know that you feel similarly toward me. Um, my dog is barking. Stevie. Okay. Hopefully it's not too loud for you.
No, it's barely audible, and I'm
Okay.
really impressed that I do not have all three with me right now. They're busy doing something else. That might change.
Uh,
So
okay, well, I apologize.
literally, I can't hear the dog.
Okay, good. You can see her barking, but I'll
Yes.
just try to ignore her. But what I wanted to mention about what I'm doing right now, and this has been, like I said, I just started my third year in business, so this has been a lot of trial and error and learning. But hey, please stop. Thank you. Um, now she wants to be right in our faces. Okay, thank you very much. Um, but what I wanted to mention is that with one of the things that I'm offering is group coaching. Okay, I'm going to lose it. Give me 1 second.
Yep.
I can't even think to answer your questions because
Yeah.
she's yelling so loud. I hope that
And,
we can cut this
well, I mean, I can. I'd rather not,
because
because
it's real.
it's the reality.
Yeah.
We are trying to work from home with our pets, with our partners, with our lives, with the Amazon deliveries, with all of the freaking things.
Yeah.
It's just real. Like, I
Yeah.
have three dogs, and when you have three dogs, it's not like they all want to go potty at exactly the same time. I feel like I almost never have like, I cross my fingers so hard that I get through a recording before the dogs start showing up, demanding one of them or all of them want to go outside. Because yeah, I can't think. And with, I keep mentioning my nervous system, but like with my nervous system, if they're barking all the time, I'm just like, by the time about 3 o'clock in the afternoon rolls around, I've lost my mind and I can't, like, even if it was just the dogs, forget everything else. And I love them and I don't want to live without them.
Exactly. I can so relate. Oh my gosh. Okay, I think she's calming down.
Okay,
So
good.
I'm arriving again. Um,
I don't
but
even
yeah,
remember what we're talking about.
yeah, I totally agree with like this is real. This is the reality, and sometimes this
Mm-hmm.
happens. Um, and we can't avoid it because they have things to say too, and she's trying to protect me. I don't know what she's protecting me from, but that's what she's trying to do. Anyway, I wanted to talk just really quickly about my experience with group coaching,
Mm.
in the context of what we're talking about. So, not last year, but the year before. So this would have been in 2024, my first year of business. I wanted to put together a group coaching program. And I had a friend who was like kind of helping me think through it, and helping me get it organized because she does. I'm just going to shout out Julia Odie. She's a very good friend of mine. And she does like project management type stuff. So she was a good person to help me stay organized and to get certain aspects of this together. So I had her, but then she ended up participating in my program. And so I only had her for like the amping up period. And then the rest of the time she was a participant, right? And I think that that first program I did, I think it was like a month long or maybe two months. And we were meeting weekly and I had all kinds of other stuff that I was incorporating into that. Um, it went really well, but it was hard for me to get people to sign up because when you're putting these things together, there's not only that aspect and then running it as well and maintaining it, but promoting it is a whole other piece to it. So it ended up being like close friends of mine that joined, and then one of my one-on-one clients who I had already worked with previously. And so it went really well, all things considered, but it wasn't something that I felt like I could just replicate and actually scale in any way. And so I was kind of mostly disappointed afterwards because I was just like, okay, well, I didn't get any new clients from this. Um, and it was also a lot, it was very taxing for me to maintain. So anyway, fast forward to maybe like last summerish, so like the summerish of 2025, or maybe the springtime. I partnered with Haley Honeyman, who is a pretty well-known ADHD content creator and coach in this industry. And she and I have like over time, we've developed rapport. I've worked with her. I worked with her briefly at Stamara. And after we left Stamara, we decided to start putting together group coaching programs together. She's also run and facilitated her own before, and she has a larger audience than I do. And so we were kind of going to like join forces so that we weren't having to do all of this alone. We weren't having to do all of the promoting alone, the building, and then the facilitating all alone, like siloed. And so that has been really great. Like we ran a month-long burnout program last summer, which went really well. It was so much fun, and it was a lot of fun being able to lean on her and her lean on me and us, um, like think about all of the stuff that we wanted to cover together and kind of help guide one another through that process. And then we started our own group coaching, like weekly group coaching subscription that we've been doing since, I don't know, summer of last year. And being able to do that in collaboration with another creator has also just been really great because She'll host one week, I'll host the next week. So it's not taking up, like we've set it up to where there's not too much preparation that either of us need to do in advance. We kind of have an idea of what we want to talk about, and then we just see where that leads us during the session, which has been so nice and feels a lot more supportive than like scripting and planning everything meticulously. Um, and she's just also really been really great to collaborate with. So, and then sometimes now we're co-hosting the sessions too, which I'm figuring out is a lot of fun. So I think I want to just add another piece to this, and that's part of getting to a point where you can either outsource some of the stuff that you don't like to do or do it in collaboration with someone else. Part of that involves letting go of the reins a little bit. And I think getting to a place, I know, I know that reaction.
And we'll talk about some of the reasons why it's so scary. But yeah.
Yeah, well, and I don't think that, first of all, the rapport that Haley and I had before we started working together was crucial. There had to be a lot of time where I wasn't trying to collaborate directly with her and vice versa. There had to be a lot of building trust over time. I think that's such a crucial key part of that.
And
And
the
there's
patience
still,
for that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the patience for
yeah,
that can feel, depending on how you're wired, can feel, I mean, this might sound dramatic, but like life threatening. Like
yeah,
I like, how do I wait? How do I gauge all of that kind of stuff? And one of the things we wanted to talk about was some of these relationships that fail and what that does to us, right? But okay, keep going.
yeah. And I do also think that a crucial part of this journey, me getting to this place with Haley and with anyone else, has been me having too much trust in the wrong people and
Oh
learning
my
from
gosh,
that.
right?
Yep, we can
Yeah.
relate to that.
Like, oh, you're nice and you said a nice thing. I will think you're everything I was hoping for in 30 seconds. Yes, I
Right.
relate to that. And I think a lot of especially autistic people relate to that, and a lot of us AuDHDers do. I don't I've never experienced just ADHD, so I don't know what just ADHDers feel. Um,
Yeah, same.
but yeah, those of us who are very quick to like someone else, we tend to be very quick to trust somebody else and
And I
learning that.
like everyone until you give me a
Yeah, for the
reason
most
not
part.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah, which I
yeah.
think is a beautiful thing. But yeah, that doesn't mean that everybody is great for business partnership.
Or even a friendship. Like,
Yeah,
one of the things you and I both have to coach people in is how to recognize what you are actually wanting out of a friendship.
yes.
Because if you, and I think that's a great place to start before you even get to what do you want out of a business relationship. Because I think a lot of us are going to have a hard time having a business only relationship.
Hmm.
We're
Yeah.
going to need we're going to need to feel this person is my friend, that they have my back, that they care about what happens to me, and that we're never going to hear from them, well, it was just business.
Oof. Yeah, for real. Yeah, and I think that that's an interesting thing to try to navigate with people because so there's this piece of group coaching where I'm learning so much from Haley's the previous experience she already had. She's learning a lot from me and the different philosophies I'm coming into coaching with. And I think that we make a really great team. Our like energy levels are somewhat similar, and we have a lot of the same goals in business. And so I think that's really important. But then with this whole like mixing and intermingling friendship with business, it can be an interesting dynamic to figure out. So I also just in the context of getting help and letting go of the reins a little bit, something that was hard for me was I was interested in hiring a virtual assistant, but And I've had people like I've had people offer that on platforms like LinkedIn where they're like, I work with ADHD creators specifically and offering their services. And what I've noticed not only is if it's a stranger coming to me and offering that, the last thing I feel comfortable doing is giving you like passwords to my email account or things
Yes,
like that. Like,
yes,
no, you can be so nice and that's great for you, but that's one aspect of it. But then also there's a lot of VAs who who live outside of the US and their rates, regardless if the conversion rate means that they're getting to live large wherever they live, if it feels like poverty wages that I'm paying you, I'm not going to ethically feel okay with
yeah,
participating in that. It feels exploitative, even if for them it's plenty, they're getting paid plenty in their
yeah,
minds. Just I'll have people be like, it's only $5 an hour. And I'm like, that makes me want to throw up. Like, good
yeah,
luck to you. And I hope that you find what you need to like sustain your life. But I don't feel comfortable paying somebody that little. But so with that, a friend of mine recently left her job and started a business doing virtual assistance work. She and I have known each other since I think 2020. So we've known each other now for probably close to 6 years. Had plenty of time. We've stayed in touch. We used to work together in a corporate environment. We've stayed in touch while we've been doing all kinds of other stuff. And when I found out that she was offering virtual assistance work, it was no question in my mind if I'm going to hire someone, it's going to be someone I consider a friend already. We already have that rapport and
yeah,
trust built. We didn't have to do that extra, we didn't have to spend that extra time building that. And so
yeah,
now all we have to do is just figure out what are the most appropriate ways I can utilize her time and efforts and her skills, her like natural strengths. But it's a lot easier for me to have difficult conversations with her because we already know each other. And
hmm,
we know that, like, if I'm super direct with her, later on, I can go back and be like, hey, I hope that that landed okay. Like, I want and need to be able to be very direct with the people I'm in business with. And I
hmm,
only ever mean it. That's a kindness. If I'm like, being direct and blunt with you, that means that there's trust there. So if it
hmm.
ever feels like it crosses a line, I need you to feel like you can come to me and we can talk about that rather than it be like something that festers or reinforces those same dynamics that a lot of us experienced in corporate settings.
Yeah. And I think that's part of, I said, learning like our expectations for friendship might be step one.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I should explain that a little bit more because you just spoke to a lot of the things that I actually meant by that. Um, when we learn how to have friendships, we're learning to understand what our boundaries need to be, how to express them,
Mm-hmm.
uh, when it's okay for them to be a little squishy, and how we know when somebody's legitimately responding well to who we are, the boundaries that we've expressed. Because every relationship on the planet is going to go through some bumps, right? Just because we like each other doesn't mean we're always going to be happy with each other. And we have to know how to navigate those situations. So, in order to be in business with somebody successfully as a neurodivergent person, it is my personal opinion, like you said, you have to be able to be your authentic self and the other person be pretty comfortable with that or happy with that and feel willing and able to express when it's gone a little sideways for them, right? So for me, somebody's working by themselves and they're burnt out and they're trying so hard to do the thing and they're feeling lost all the time and they're listening to this, I really recommend, whether it's a group coach or neurodivergent people in business organization or something like that, right? Get yourself involved where you can start hearing from and participating with other people who are learning some of the same things at the same time. Learning how to, as a neurodivergent person who didn't know until I was 50, there were so many rules in my head about how to be a person that I am working now to abandon so that real me, authentic me can come out more commonly. I am less masked in the world. Um, but I also have to know when that is a safe situation, right? There's a big learning curve for a lot of us. Um, for me, a big reason why I chose to invest in my relationship with you, Neely, was because I saw how you were showing up in the world. We were on a couple of social platforms, uh, so I could see what you were putting out there. I We had a shared experience that we both had the same opinion of
Mm-hmm.
afterwards. Um, but I had learned, as excited as I might get about somebody initially, I don't actually know them. And I need to make sure I know myself well enough. That's an everyday for the rest of our lives effort, getting to know ourselves. It's not something that just happens and now we know it and forever, right? Because we're beings in constant iteration and evolution. Just basic stuff about us that probably has been there since we popped into this existence. I'm somebody who has always wanted reality over fiction. It's not that I don't enjoy a good movie or show, um, but if I'm really going to invest my time, it's nonfiction. It's something that's part of my sense of purpose, whatever, right? And honesty is just that I equate reality and honesty, and I always have, right? So I can think of that as something that I may evolve and iterate my understanding of that and how I live it, but it's who I am. That is a core factor of who I am, who I've always been, right? So you do need to get to know your core. And then you need to get to know kind of how you want to do that in the world. And I think one of the things that goes a little sideways for us sometimes is that when we're putting some of this energy out into the world, and this is one of the things you and I said we wanted to talk about, when we're putting that energy out into the world, some people respond well to it and some people respond really badly to it. Some of the things you and I have both experienced is people feeling maybe jealous. Um, they want what we have. Sometimes very specifically, they want our business. They want to claim our efforts. And you and I have both spent some time working with others who turned out to be that kind of person. They didn't actually want to work with us. They wanted to replace us. They wanted to take our energy and our effort and claim it as theirs and kind of grind us into the ground as they went forward. And that can be devastating. That can be really, really hard to recover from. And I think some neurodivergent people who are trying to do their own thing and who have tried to invite people into their space and are willing to give up some of the reins and are like, and they have worked on themselves and they're sitting on the other side of this video going, I'm done. and it doesn't work. It's humanity sucks, right? How do you find your way through those events with a modicum of resilience? I know you and I have helped each other with that. Sometimes you just need another human, um, but there is personal work to do, and it can be really hard. Whoa.
Yeah. Um, so a couple of things are coming to mind. So first off, I just want to mention and call out this little thing I'm wearing. Anybody that's watching the video of this will be able to see it. But if you are listening, it's like a little it's an emblem that I have on my necklace, and it's like a horn, but it's kind of like a twisty looking horn. And
To me, it looks like a bent stick. It looks like
mhm,
a twisted stick, a little silver dangly twisted stick, but it's a horn.
yes.
Okay, cool.
And I just looked up because I always forget the name of it. It's the name of this symbol is called cornicello. I might be mispronouncing that, but interestingly, you're in New York, I'm in Texas. I've run into people in Texas who are from New York who were like, I love your cornicello. I wear one of those too. It's a New York thing. A lot of people wear these in New York. Don't ask me the background behind that,
Oh,
but
interesting.
basically,
I didn't know that.
yeah, the symbol is like supposed to help you protect against the evil eye or bad luck or people who might be jealous of you. And I
I need
found
an
this,
entire wardrobe made of.
right? Yeah, yeah, for real. Yeah. But it almost looks kind of like a chili pepper, which is
It does a
cute to
little bit,
me.
like a long
Yeah,
skinny, like a banana pepper. Very
yeah.
skinny banana pepper.
And so I found it and I just liked the way it looked. And then I looked up what it meant and I had to buy it. And I wear it almost every day. It's part of my life uniform. And so that's like a very like woo-woo kind of specific and deliberate way to like ward off jealousy or envy or the evil eye or however you want to look at it. Um, and so that's one way that you can approach it. But I also, part of it has been healing my own relationship with jealousy and envy. And so, and I do think that there's kind of like an energy shift when you start to work on you, like if you notice certain energies coming your way and you don't like it, it's important too to examine, first of all, why do I not like this feeling? And are there aspects of this that maybe I need to heal within myself, right? So and I don't think that that Dawn Marie was suggesting that either of us don't experience that jealousy ourselves. But I definitely experience it too. There are times whenever I'm like very envious of other people that just seem to be on the surface doing way better than I am with their business, whether that has to do with visibility or it has to do with money that they're making or opportunities they're getting. I definitely experience that jealousy too. And so, what I've been working on is trying to reframe jealousy as a signal rather than it being like something that a feeling that I let fester or turn into resentment, or I let keep me from supporting my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I now, whenever I experience that feeling of jealousy or envy, I try to examine that within myself and I try to see it as, oh, this is actually more of a compass to show me what's important to me and to show me what kind of goals maybe I should have for myself. Maybe I never thought of, um, like, say, a friend of mine, I have a couple of friends who have done TED Talks. This example just came to my mind. I have a couple of friends who have done TED Talks, and that's so cool for them. And I haven't necessarily gotten this like visceral jealousy from seeing them do that. But let's say I did. Let's say I was like, oh my gosh, it must be nice to get to do your own TED Talk. First of all, you have to work very hard to get to that place.
Hmm.
That's not just something that's handed to you typically. But if I'm able to notice that jealousy when that comes up, then I can realize, oh, wait, that's something that I want for myself. That's a goal that I would like to strive for. And if I am never given the opportunity to realize that that's something that I want, I'm never going to work toward that. So
Hmm.
I try to see the jealousy as like a gift or like a compass, and it helps to steer me toward things that I also want to accomplish for myself, whether that's doing it completely on my own or doing it in collaboration with someone or talking to someone who's already done the thing and getting advice from them or mentorship of some kind to get me there. And I just think like approaching it that way, it makes it easier too for me to start to champion those things and start to like cheer for those people whenever they do things that I'm jealous of, because I'm also just I'm telling the universe more of that, please, for
Yeah,
anyone, including
yeah,
me, you
that's
know?
awesome. I love that. I love that. We have very little time left, and one of the things that you and I said we wanted to talk about is, going back to very early in our conversation today, us both coming from a scarcity background and mindset. You and I both have a hard time charging for what we do. Um,
Hmm.
I grew up with a dad who was brilliant and basically anything always worked for himself, always the entrepreneur. Um, and very rarely could he get himself to like send out the invoice. And if somebody didn't pay him, to like show up and say, I did the work, you need to pay me. Um, the number of times he would come home with something that was truly useless to the family because somebody said, well, I'll give you this instead of paying you. Um, and so, I also grew up with somebody who had a hard time with it. So it's not like I had great examples of being in business for yourself and doing the thing. But also, I know that statistically, neurodivergent people are at least 70% under or unemployed. I know that the people we are trying to help often do not have the funds that we're charging. And you and I have talked a lot about that, especially recently. When you're trying to do good things for an underserved, marginalized community who may not have consistent, reliable funds, how do you charge? How do you feel like a good person, right? Especially if you're feeling like capitalism is not something you want to participate in. It can feel really tricky. Being an entrepreneur is not the same thing as being a capitalist. And I won't try to give the Econ 101 education on that. Um, Providing goods and services and things in exchange for something else uh, is not the same as being a capitalist. So maybe step one, get a really good understanding of who you are when you work for yourself. If you're finding some of our current political atmosphere challenging, you might be stuck in a little bit of sense of shame or guilt because you're trying to work for yourself and you need money to survive and you feel like a shitty human. Um, but you and I have had some pretty cool conversations about what we speak into the universe, the energy we put out into the universe when we give into those feelings of fear and shame and guilt. Um, then we're not being our cool creative selves, right? Like, yeah, my dad brought home a bunch of useless things, but had he been more willing to think creatively, maybe there would have been a more useful trade. It doesn't always have to be dollars and cents. It might be something mutually beneficial. And we still have to pay our bills, right? It can't like we have to find the balance there. But can you talk a little bit in the few minutes we've got left how your thought process has kind of evolved and and where you are feeling like you're landing with all of this?
Yeah. So it's definitely still evolving.
Yeah.
There's still work to be done there. And it's far from a linear journey. I just want to say, like, going from a scarcity mindset, especially one that's been conditioned and you've had evidence for living a life of scarcity throughout your life, it's not going to be like the flip of a switch to suddenly have an abundance mindset. So just anyone that's listening that struggles with that, if it's been like a back and forth, you feel like it's 3 steps forward, 4 steps back kind of thing, that's how it is. That's
A
part
little
of it,
bit.
I think.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just continuing to try to make incremental progress in those ways. Um, but yeah, so starting my Patreon was you were very instrumental in helping me get to a place where I could finally launch it and just see what happens, kind of thing. But it was an agonizing process getting to that point. I will say charging for my one-on-one coaching hasn't been too difficult. I within the first like year or so of having my business and offering that, I increased my prices a bit, and I've always offered sliding scale options, but the sliding scale options have parameters, so it's not like I meet with someone and they're like, oh, I can't afford your full hourly coaching rate. And then I'm like, well, what can you afford? And I'll take whatever that is. It's very much like I give them a range that I'm comfortable with accepting for my time. And as long as they can pay within that range, we're solid. And
Mhm.
I look at them just like I look at any of my one-on-one clients, no matter what they're paying me. So that hasn't been too difficult for whatever reason for me to navigate. But when it comes to charging, so I've been offering these what essentially amounts to group coaching, but it's very flexible and unstructured, and it's kind of just bring what's on your mind today, and we'll see where that goes. And there's also aspects of peer support involved in that. So I've been hosting like body doubling sessions and these book club sessions largely for free, um, almost entirely for free for the last couple of years. And that was my way of building community online. And it did do that. But then I wasn't charging for any of that time. And it's taken, and I'm still going to struggle with this because it's not like a light switch, unfortunately, but getting to a place where I felt like I could charge because people are getting more than just like me being present on the screen. There's a peer support and also coaching aspect with all of these calls that
Right.
I host. Um, and I'm constantly being told how helpful they are, and how valuable they are. But I felt like if I were to ever charge, which by the way, I'm charging like $5 a month. We're not talking about hundreds of dollars suddenly after it being free. We're talking about $5 a month, or with the other option on my Patreon, it's a sliding scale between 11 and $33 a month. But basically, I felt like if someone wasn't able to afford to pay to continue to participate, then I would be alienating those community members, putting a price tag on community, basically, which does feel evil, like
Mhm.
full stop. That feels evil and it feels like it goes against my values and blah, blah, blah. But my hope there's a couple of things that I hope for in making this change. And it's that one, if somebody is paying anything for something, even if it's a very small amount, um, they're more likely to engage in whatever that is. So I have tons of people that signed up for my book club and body doubling sessions for free, never attended a single one. They were so excited about it, never once attended.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I wanted it to be flexible and you use it if you can, and if you can't, you don't. But like, I just had all these names and email addresses that were signed up for something, and neither of us were getting anything out of that. So my hope is that people will actually get something out of it if they are there's some sort of monetary exchange. But what you helped me to realize was not only the people that can afford to pay me, they some of them want to, some of them are have sought out ways to pay me either on buy me a coffee or some other way. They've sought out ways to support me financially if they can and they have the means. So that's one aspect of it. I want them to have options to do that, and if they can get something from me like as a result in exchange, awesome, great, cool.
Yeah.
Um, but then something you also really helped me to realize was one mutual exchange that could occur, and this can look a lot of different ways, but one way that really stood out to me was asking folks if they can't afford to pay a monthly membership, then have them help me promote the Patreon in lieu of making a payment, because a big part of this is getting getting it in front of people and for people
Right.
to be able to see what I'm offering. And having more people to help me do that is huge. Like, that's priceless for me. And so what's interesting about this, I'm just going to throw this piece out there and we'll see. This could change. I'm very early on in this journey, but every time I've talked about the Patreon, I've made the offer somewhere, whether it was in a social
Mm-hmm.
media post or this was on my Patreon itself or in my Discord community. I've said, if you aren't able to afford a membership and you want to participate, reach out to me. We'll figure something out, some mutual exchange. No one has reached out to me yet to take me up on that.
Yeah.
It's not up to me to like hunt down people for
Right.
that option. And if I we'll see if that changes, but it's just interesting to me that like I've had people be excited about me making this change, also mention that they wouldn't be able to pay for these services. But then whenever I offer another option, they're not interested in that either.
Yeah,
Strange.
it's one of the things that I think I'm finding my comfort in. Um, I I want to be engaging with people who also want good things for me. I have felt so like I want good for everybody so intensely. And I know part of this is my trauma journey so intensely that I've been willing for the vast majority of my life to engage with people who don't actually care about me. They only care what I can give to them.
Yep.
So the moment I say, I'd like this to be a little bit more mutual, they go away. They self-select out. And it's taken me a very long time to stop feeling like I did something wrong. And I'm realizing that that's the training of the abuse in my life. That if I have said I want something, I would appreciate something, or I need something, and somebody turns away from me, that's on them. I don't have to think badly of them. I just don't have to think badly of me.
Yes.
Right? They're not being a jerk, they're not being anything, they're just being them. That's fine. If this relationship was always going to be one way, that's totally fine. I'm just not looking for those relationships anymore.
Yeah.
I'm looking for, in my business, in my nonprofit, mutual relationships. And mutual don't mean equal. It might be
Right.
a 99 to 1%. But I'm now getting really devoted to, at bare minimum, you got to be 1% on my team. You got to be willing to give something in return for what I'm giving, because otherwise I'm just emptying myself out. And no version of my health, mental, emotional, physical, is surviving that lack of mutual benefit. Um, that's a really hard thing to do. It's a really hard thing to clear out of my being the idea that I'm a shit human if I'm creating something that I need that then seems to exclude someone. Because if anybody knows me, excluding someone goes against like my whole being. Like it's icky on every possible level. And so what I'm having to realize is that I'm not excluding, I'm offering somebody the opportunity to select in or select out.
Yeah.
It's different from excluding. Offering somebody in a, it's like, if I've put out a plate of cookies and you don't want cookies, that's fine. If all I have is cookies, you'll have to go someplace else if you want something other than cookies. It doesn't make me a bad person. And Neely, you've never been to my home because New York, Texas, right? But if you've ever come, anybody who's ever come for a meal knows that I will near kill myself to provide everything I can think of so that nobody sits at my table and goes, "Oh, you don't have what I want," right?
Yeah.
I will. And my family has been trying to teach me you can't keep doing this to yourself, right? You can be in touch, you can ask for the allergies, you can ask for the preferences, you can say, here is the menu, and you can do all of that, but you can't cook 900 things so that everybody can have a bite of something they might enjoy, right? Same in business, same in our personal relationships. We, we can't keep asking of ourselves to put out all of the energy for all of the different types of people to constantly be performing in a way that people ask us to, because then we're not feeding the soul, we're not feeding the mind, we're not feeding the body, we're doing the opposite, we're emptying. And it's odd to talk about this in terms of business, but I believe, especially for our neurodivergent selves, that has to come to our business mindset. It can't just stay in our personal lives.
Yeah. This
I don't
is
personally survive my business if it doesn't hold the qualities that I need for my personal life.
right. Yeah. And it has to be like you have to be getting something out of
Right.
what you're doing, everything you're doing. And for me, for a long time, what I was getting out of it was the community and I was having fun. But again, having a sense of community online or otherwise and having fun aren't going to ensure that my bills are paid.
Right.
Unfortunately, I so wish that that wasn't the case. This conversation is also reminding me of, have you ever heard of bean soup theory?
I think you mentioned it to me, but explain it.
I might have.
Yeah.
So this is on like a more fundamental level, especially in terms of like social media and marketing yourself and that kind of stuff. So bean soup theory is basically like It was born from someone had posted a something. It was a bean soup recipe where they were telling people how to make a specific bean soup. And there were comments that were saying, "What if I don't like beans?"
And you don't want
And
to be
then the answer
like
is
you.
this isn't the recipe for you. There are
Right.
literally countless other recipes that don't have beans that you
Right.
can engage with instead. And if I'm offering a lot of hours and hours of my time each week, whether you even need to engage with that or not, like if I'm offering that and you're like, "Oh, well, this doesn't fit my time zone,"
Yeah.
or this isn't what I want. I don't need these services. I'm not asking you to give me money for them
Yeah.
if you can't get anything out of what I'm offering. Like, it's not for you, and that's okay. Not everything has to be for everyone. And if we are constantly creating and offering services to try to provide for every single type of person, we're not only going to burn ourselves out, but that's literally impossible. You
Yeah.
can't make everybody happy. Like, that's not an option, unfortunately. And I think that that's just a really crucial lesson that has to be learned too whenever you're a neurodivergent business owner, is that like part of it is having some sort of a niche and being able to cater toward those people, your people, whoever it is that you are targeting. It's for them. It's not for literally anybody that just happens upon your website or your content. It can't be for everyone. It just can't.
Yeah. And that's probably a great place to wrap this up. Um, I think that goes in both directions, right? I have to get comfortable with the idea that my audience might be small. I should nurture the audience that is legitimately drawn to me and not carry too much angst and anxiety over the audience that may find me and actually doesn't like me.
It's not for them.
It's not for them. If I'm serving cookies or bean soup, right? Like, and they don't want cookies and bean soup, well, that's lovely. There's another creator, content coach, whatever, right down the hall. Like, move along. And I don't have to feel badly about that. I am no longer putting myself through the pain and suffering of trying to figure out how to be acceptable to a mass audience. I don't want to be acceptable. I want to be enjoyed, appreciated, all of those things, right? I want to connect with the people who actually connect with me. Um, and that might mean it stays pretty small. That's got to be okay. That's got to be okay. Um, Working for what, going back to my original statement that I want reality, I have to be willing to watch my thoughts of jealousy, watch my thoughts of expectation and demand, to be really willing to watch those things within me so that I'm not creating an unreal perspective and then trying to live up to it.
Hmm.
It'll never work and it'll just feel gross always, right? It'll never work. But if I really focus on who I am and what I want to put out into the world, and I know there are others like me. If that's the energy I'm putting out into the world, I changed, I changed how I state that intention a few days ago. I have always stated my intention of help those who need me find me. I've been doing all of this thinking, right? Talking with you and helping you get the Patreon and all that has really been good for me. Okay, Don Marie, how are we practicing what we preach today? Right. And so I like started with that intention. I was like, wait, I already get a lot of people who need me. and it's not working. What do I need my intention to be? And I realized for right this minute, the intention I need to put out into the world is help those who I need find me.
Mm.
Oh, I'm getting choked up again. Like it made me cry. Like giving myself permission, put that out there into the universe. And I can ask for the universe to send me the people I need. That doesn't mean they don't need me. I need people who need me, but I need them. It needs to be mutual. Send me the people I need. And before I even started asking it, the universe sent me you, Neely. And I'm so glad we got to talk today. And I hope we do it again really soon because this has been awesome. Do you have any final thought you want to toss out there before we say goodbye?
I mean, I feel like if I start, then I'll just go on more tangents.
Hi,
No.
say hello. What?
I think, yeah, I think everything that we've wanted to say during this episode has been said pretty much. Um, yeah, I do a lot of like preaching about self-abandonment and building self-trust. And one of the most crucial things that was brought to my attention by my community members was that by not charging for my time, no matter how much fun I was having or community I was building in the meantime, I was modeling for them how to devalue or undervalue their own time. And that like the only way you can build a community is by not charging. And I once that was brought to my attention in the gentlest, most loving way, I felt horrible. And I was like, oh, that's what I'm actually doing by continuing to do this. And so it's been a lot of difficult realizations to come to, and it's been a journey. But if we want to see other neurodivergent entrepreneurs and professionals start to see their own worth, we also have to model that
Yep.
in some way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So this is part of me trying to do that, and it's been hard and uncomfortable, and that's how I know it's worth it.
And I think we should say right here in the last few seconds, you launched your Patreon and some people have responded, right? It's not like you launched it and it was just crickets.
Right.
It's not like all of your financial woes are over, but you were pleasantly surprised by the pretty quick response to, oh yeah, Neely, I want to support you in that way. I'm with
Yes.
you in that. Um, and I think that's how any of us are gonna feel like we're gonna be okay. Is if we find the people that with a smile on their face do what they can to be in it with us.
Yes.
Because damn, if there was ever a moment in human history where we need to feel like we've got people in it with us, maybe it's now.
For real.
Well, thank you so much, Neely. Hopefully we will do this again really, really soon.
Yes. Thank you for having me.